Okay. Good morning, Trevor. Nice to see everybody. Let's jump right in, our 9:32 start, and we'll get moving. So this morning, the topic that was sent out was how best to fill our lives with blessings. And when a person thinks about the general idea of having so much blessings in their lives, there's two ways one can go about that. And we actually see it a little bit in this week's Torah portion, and we actually see it once you have that lens on, you see it in so many different areas as part of our tradition. So I'll take you through the quick story of what happens in our parsha a little bit in one area, and then we'll throw examples. You might be able to throw one or two that you know as well. But it's talking about the mitzvah of Shemitah. So just to give context, Shemitah is every 7 years. The land lies fallow in Israel. There are people to this very day who observe that. That was a couple years ago that happened, and it has lots of facets to it. The realization that there's we don't control what happens. It's not our land. We were given the land in terms of understanding our reliance on the fact that even if we don't do what we have to do, things can still work out. Obviously, the idea of 7 is a very significant number, just like we're going into Shabbat. 6 days a week we work. On the seventh day, we lie fallow. So there's so much to unpack there. But the question obviously is when it comes to a year of taking off work, just I don't know what stage all the chevra here are on, but if I told you, you know what, you're going to work for 6 years, and every seventh year, you're going to take a sabbatical, and I don't want you to go to work at all. Your first question might be, after you think about, wow, that'd be so nice to have a year off, is, wait, how am I going to support my family or myself? This is going to be problematic, right? Not every company will allow a person to spread their wealth of 7 years over 6 years or 6 years over 7 years. So what does a person do? So the Torah picks it up at that point, and it says, "Don't worry." And I'll read it in English. "The land will give its fruit, and you will eat your fill, and you'll dwell securely upon it." So God says, "Don't worry. You'll be full. You'll be satiated." And then it continues and says, "And if you will say, 'What will we eat on the seventh year?' Then it continues, says, 'Behold, you won't sow, you won't gather, but in the sixth year I'll yield a crop sufficient for 3 years." Right? Basically, what it's saying is, don't worry. You'll be okay. And if you say, "Wait, how are we going to be okay?" You'll say in the sixth year, you'll have like a bumper crop. So if we were put into context of our work, if I said, okay, I'm on for taking off the seventh year, spending it, reconnecting, growing, learning, whatever it is, and how am I going to make it work? God would say, don't worry, I'll take care of you. You're going to say, how is that possible? I see my bills piling up. He says, don't worry, in the sixth year, you're going to get like a bonus that's going to cover you for year 6, year 7, and year 8. So that's the framing. But whenever we have a question that's asked and it's answered, and then the Jews ask again that question, the question must be that it must be telling us something more. So Rashi has a unique comment. I shared this with my shul, but not the full thought. The comment that Rashi says when it says you'll eat and you'll be satisfied, Rashi over there, the famous biblical commentary from about 1,000 years ago, says you'll sustain yourself even inside what you eat in your stomach will be satiated. Right? Meaning you'll eat whatever you eat normally. It won't be more than usual, but it'll last you longer. So, sometimes a person eats and they keep going back to the fridge over and over and over again. And other times they eat and they feel satiated. So God says, don't worry, you might have less, but you'll be okay with less and you'll be fine. You won't be hungry. You'll be sustained. And then it says, the Malbim, one of the other commentaries says, then why does it say, what am I going to do? How am I going to support myself? So God says, don't worry, I'll give you enough of a paycheck for 3 years. And the Malbim explains, what's this dichotomy? It says there's two ways in life that a person could be happy and sustained with what they have. The first way is they're happy with whatever they have, right? They have it all. And whatever they have will be enough to take care of them fully. Then there's people that say, no, but I need more. And God says, okay, if you're a person that needs more, I'll give you more. You'll have like enough for 3 years. And what is this idea of these two types of blessings? So I'd love to explore that with the few minutes that we have. Meaning when we talk about a person has everything that they could possibly want in life, it either means that a person pursues a tremendous amount of things and always wants to have more so they can have it all, or a person says, you know what, I have everything that I need, and I'm what's called sameach b'chalko, happy with everything that I currently have. And I want to show you in a few places where we have this approach, which is an important one to keep in mind. First one that comes in mind is every single morning, we say morning blessings. We thank God that we're able to go ahead and have clothes, that we can walk, that we can talk, that we can see. And it says one of the blessings is, Sha'asa li kol tzarki. God, you made me with everything that I need. full stop. Meaning sometimes we're focused on, but I need these other things. And other times we say, you know what? I have everything that I possibly could need. And there's nothing else that I don't have in my life that if I just had that, I would be happier. And you see this actually portrayed in two of the big arch enemies between Yaakov and Esav. When Yaakov and Esav have their coming together, they don't have any, love lost between them, but they're finally having a reconciliation moment. And they talk about how God was great to them. So Esav says, Yeshli Rab, I've got so much stuff, right? Yaakov responds by saying, Yeshli Kol, I have everything. And what does that mean? I have so much versus I have everything. When a person has so much, they can always have more. Meaning I have a lot, but there's always more to have. And the focus of that person's life is how do I capture more in order to be happier? When a person says, no, 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 I have it all, right? Oh, but I can give you more. It's okay. I don't need. I remember there was a teacher of mine who, Mr. Woodrich, he was from South Africa. And he told us a story in grade 4. It stuck with me that he was going through the safari, a dream that me and my wife hopefully one day will be able to go. Right before COVID, we were supposed to be a scholar in residence on one of these safaris. It's too expensive for us to go on our own. But then COVID happened, canceled the whole thing. So the dream's getting pushed off a little bit. But I remember this story that he said when you're going through the game, there was a bunch of people there who were throwing bottles at the lions, something like that. And the game reservist came over, told them to get out of the car and go pick up the bottles. And the guys were obviously petrified. And he's like, sorry, you can't leave that there. They forced them to go. They picked it up. They ran off and fine. My teacher went over to them, and I was a kid at the time. He says, I understand, like it's a nice point, but you jeopardize their life. He said, no, 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 it's fine. He says, what do you mean fine? Those are lions. They're hungry. He says, no, 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 we fed them already. So he says, you don't understand. The natural order of things is when you've eaten enough, you don't need more. The animals aren't in a sense of where they're looking to kill and eat anything that they see always. They realize they need to eat. And at a certain point, they're full. Yeshli kol. And even if they see a tasty human being walking by, they're not thinking, wow, but I can fit in a little bit more. Or if I only had more. He says that's a human weakness that we have. Where we're full, we loosen the belt on our pants. And then somebody says, I'm full, I can't have another bite. And then in comes the dessert. And we say, well, you know what? Maybe I can fit a little bit more in. What does that mean? It means we think that there'll be greater joy by having more. I ate a lot, but I can always have more. Along comes our tradition that says, no, no, no. Actually, you know what's a greater blessing? If you could be happy with less. And what happens when a person is happy with less? Not because they feel that they have less, but they feel like they have everything that they need. Well, then let's take this person who has to work hard in order to earn more. They say, you know what, if I just put in more time and more time and more time, I can always earn more. I put on my podcast last night, a beautiful saying. It said in 20 years from now, the only people that will remember you worked through the night are your kids. Right? Meaning you're taking time away from something because you feel like if I could have more, but wait, you have it all. You have enough to supply what you need. You can spend time doing what's important. And there's this unfortunate sense that we have that if we just accumulate and get more, we'll be happier. It reminds me speaking of a story that they tell of some, hotshot American that goes down to one of these all-inclusive resorts down south. And he sees this person, a local, and he's sitting there on a dock and he's fishing in the morning. He fishes 1, 2, 3 things, very successful. And about an hour into the day, he sees this guy get up and he's watching him. He seems to be an amazing, skilled fisherman. And he sees this guy get up after an hour and start walking away. And he approaches the guy. He says, sir, I don't understand. Where are you going? He says, well, I caught some fish. I'm going to go now. He says, but I was watching you. He says, I enjoy and appreciate fishing. You have a technique and a skill that really is unbelievable. He says, well, thank you. So he says, well, why are you going home? He says, what do you mean? What should I do? He says, well, if you stayed for another couple of hours, do you know how much more fish you can go ahead and accumulate? He's like, that's interesting. He says, then what? He says, then what? He says, the truth is, if you fish all day and you really put in some hours, you could really earn a truckload. He says, well, and then what? He says, well, you could probably actually then train other people. Once you have enough, you can train others to start doing that fishing and you can have a whole crew of people. He says, wow. And then what? He says, listen, clearly you're not a businessman. You don't understand how this works. He says, if you can train a bunch of people, you might be able to even get a boat, do deep sea fishing, go out there and really catch the big stuff. In 5 years, you can amass this massive empire, the fish king, right? He says, okay, and then what? It's like, and then what? He says that then you can go and enjoy your life, spend time with your family and your kids. He says, you know what? That's great. He says, I think I'm going to go do that right now. I'm going to go spend time with my family and my kids and just enjoy the time that I have. And he picks up his bucket. And that very second, he goes home to focus on the things that are important. Meaning we're always focusing on how can we advance and develop more. But obviously, there's an importance in work that people do. But sometimes you lose the balance saying, but if I only had more. And therefore, the Malbim, that commentary said on this week's Parsha, says there's two levels of blessing. Ideally, a person should say, you know what? I'll have a little bit less. I won't be part of the rat race, but I'll have time to focus on the more important things in life. The other person feels, but I want stuff. I need stuff. So God says, fine, I'll give you 3 years of stuff. You'll have to still sow it and reap it and whatever. You do all the things. If you think working hard to make it is better, then that's fine. Again, obviously we have to put in our efforts. But this idea of Yeshli Kol, I have it all. And in fact, just as a reminder, when we're saying Birkat Hamazon, the benching, you actually see this line tucked in all the way towards the end. Right at the end of benching, it says the words "Kemoshen Yisparchu Avosenu," just like our forefathers were blessed, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, our forefathers, Bakol, Mikol, Kol. Right, and each one of those words, Kol, which means all, Bakol, Mikol, and Kol, are references to the ways that each of them they refer to. Like we said by Yaakov, Yaakov said, Yeshli Kol, I have it all. Could he have had more? He could have had more technically, but that wouldn't have enhanced in life. In fact, it might have detracted from his life. Avram, it says, Vashem Beirachas Avram Bakol. God blessed Avram with everything. What does it mean, everything? The exact same idea. He had everything he needed. When he sat down on his couch, he was able to say, God gave me everything that I need. More won't necessarily be better. In fact, sometimes as we see, more can actually corrupt in one of two ways. One, obviously, there's a sense of spoiled, right? Always needing that, not enjoying or appreciating what a person has onto the next. And every time we say yes to something else, we're saying no to something more important. I remember when I was teaching in chat many years ago, and they were shocked that we didn't have a television in our house. And they're like, well, that's crazy. I remember actually when we were doing our renovations on our house and we went to get our new appliances to Appliance Canada. He said, okay, we got to outfit your house with all the basics. So you'll need your washer, your dishwasher, your oven, your stove, your TV. We're like, well, we don't need the TV part. He says, what do you mean you don't need a TV? Like you have a house. He says, I'm like, we're just not going to have a TV. He says, like, are you going to have a toilet? Literally, that's what he said. You're going to have toilet. Like, you need the basics, right? We're like, you know what? We'll be okay with that one. And it's before you had massive internet, everything happening. And we had a discussion. We said, you know what? If you have yes to 8 hours of Netflix, you have no to reading, spending family time, playing games, going for walks. Sometimes more isn't better. Actually, more is less. And therefore, the blessings in life are really about appreciating that Ashali called Sarki. God has given my concoction of everything I have in my life exactly what I need. And therefore, the greatest, as it says in Pirkei Avos, and with this, ethics of our fathers, it's somewhat we're studying during this time period, especially between Pesach to Shavuot. It has the famous line of Ezehu Asher, who is really wealthy, Hasameach B'chalko. If one's happy with what they have, right? If you're happy with what you have, more isn't necessarily better. It's possibly worse. And if a person is happy with everything they have in their lives, then they don't look outside for how can I be happier? They look inside for how do they mind the blessings that they have in their lives. So, Chevra, our lives are full of blessings. There's no more blessing that could be in it. We should appreciate what's in there. And as with everything, the more we appreciate that which we're given, the more, just like with a parent and a child, the more a child's appreciative and says, wow, thanks for everything. A parent says, you think that's everything? I'd love to give you more if you appreciate that. So please to God, we too should have all the blessings we need in our lives as well. Chevra, wishing you a great Shabbos. And as always, if this is valuable, feel free to share it with a friend. And looking forward to seeing you next week. Stop the recording now.